Hi guys, and welcome to U-Wrench. Today we're going to be showing you how to do a spark plug change. This is for the Grand Caravan, the 2008 through 2020 model, which has the 3.6 V6 engine. The same engine, of course, is also in the Chrysler Town Country. Let's do it. So first things first, let's have a look at what we're facing. We'll get the engine cover out of the way. It's just four little poppers, one in each of the corners. Just pop that out of the way, put that to one side. So unfortunately on the Grand Caravan, the spark plug change is far more involved than you might initially think. And the reason being is we've got this plastic intake manifold that's basically sat over the top of our spark plugs and blocking our access. To be able to gain access to the spark plugs, we need to get this out of the way. And to get this out of the way, we've actually got to do quite a lot of strip down work and disconnect various things around the engine bay, as you'll see. So it's not a particularly difficult job, but it is quite time consuming, and there are quite a few steps along the way. But if you just follow this video step by step, we're literally going to show you every bolt, every screw, every clip as we go through. So just follow along on the video step by step and you won't go wrong. So don't worry, it might look like it's quite a big job, but nothing there is very complicated. So let's do it. So first of all, we've got this air pipe that comes off of the air box, that attaches down to the side of the engine there. So we can get rid of this completely. Give it a wobble, the end will come off, it's just rubber. The same down here, and put that to one side. So next up, we want to remove the lid of the air box. We've got these clips around the side of the air box. There's three of them around the edges. Unclip those, and that will allow you to lift the airbox lid. And there's three little notches, little tabs on the back of it, so when you lift it up you have to draw it forward to disconnect those. So just get it to that stage there. So next up we've got this hose clip right here. So I'm just going to slacken this off, and then we're going to remove this pipe and the airbox lid completely from the car. So to disengage the pipe, there's a little tab at the top, just get your fingers in there and start to pull it forward. A bit of a wobble, and that will come off like so. So we have the whole lid and the pipe. Put that to one side. So next we're going to be removing this part of the air intake from the vehicle. So we're going to start with this electrical connection. There's just a little tab on the side. If you just push that in, you can do it with your thumb, sometimes they can be a bit sticky. Push it in quite hard and just slide that forward, and that's the electrical connection released. Another thing to check at this stage is to have a look at this power steering pipe, this big pipe right here. Often this is attached onto the side of the housing. It's got a little bracket with a clip, and you have to pop that out. As you can see, in this particular instance it's not, it's attached to a different bracket that sits down here. But you want to check yours, and if yours is attached into the side of here, just pop that out and make sure that's put to one side, just like that, so it's ready to come out. So next up we've got this little plastic pin. We need to lift up the centre pin so we can remove this plastic fixing. That's the central pin, and then this piece here should come out like so, and that should live in the centre there. So as that pushes down, it just expands the side of this and locks that into place. So keep that safely to one side. So this has a couple of plastic lugs located at the back of it. So what we need to do is pop those lugs out. So we need to kind of get our fingers underneath it and try and disconnect the two lugs that are at the back. There they are. And then just move the whole thing forward. And wiggle him out. And so that's that section removed. So as we can see now, we've created the access. You can see the coil packs. Obviously there's three on each side, so we can see the three that are on this side right here. So obviously we're going to be accessing these later on, but to gain access to the front three, we've also got to get the intake manifold out of the way as well. So next we need to start disconnecting some of the various components that are attached to our intake manifold. So we're going to start with this electrical connection on the top right here. This is a two-stage latch, so what you have to do is you actually have to slide this red tab backwards to begin with, and then you can squeeze that tab down and just pull, and that will release it like so. So next we have this vacuum hose right here. If you give it a bit of a twist just to break the seal, slide that off, just tuck that to the back, just so it's out of our way for the meantime. And then next we have another two-stage electrical connector here on the throttle body, so we need to get this one removed as well. So now we can see we've got the two electrical connections here, and there's like a little plastic clip attaches it onto the throttle body just there, so we'll just push that off. And we have another one of these clips just here. And then we have one of these little popper clip type connectors here. Just give it a bit of a wobble, that will come out like so. So next on this electrical harness, you can see it's got this little plastic arm that comes onto this hose here, so we need to disconnect this hose. Next up, we've got this brake booster line that comes in to the back just behind this electrical connector for the MAF that we disconnected earlier. So this is the next to be disconnected. So next up we have this metal bracket here, and we have this plastic arm that comes through, and we've got a little nut on the end here, and also a second nut just at the tip of my finger right there at the back. So what we're going to do is get these two nuts removed, that one there and that one right there. So these are both 10mm. And down at the bottom on this, got this electrical harness here, comes through just there on one of these little plastic holding pins, and below that it's got this little kind of plastic cap that sits on the end of a threaded bolt just there. Hopefully you guys can see that just there. So we're going to attack this next with a size 13 deep socket. So now we're just going to detach the bracket from the rear. It's still locked onto this electrical harness here, so it's not going to go anywhere. So just detach that from the rear. So next you've got your upper radiator hose, and you've got this plastic clamp that attaches into the intake manifold. Yeah, this one's been out before. You might be able to pop that out using a screwdriver, or alternatively we can open up the clip at the front here. So with that pipe out of the way, we've actually got two more nuts to remove. One there and the other one just there. These are size 10, the same as the size 10 that we did on the rear earlier. So grab your flexi head wrench and get both of these removed. Next stage we have sets of these screws. There's 7 of these in total. As you can see, they've got a hex head, so we can remove these with an 8mm socket. So we have 1, 2, and then down in the hole there, 3, and then one at the back, 4, another one in the hole there, 5, 6, and then there's another one down in this little hole down in there. So that's 7. So you need to get all 7 of those removed. And you'll find with these is once you've undone the thread that passes through, they're kind of loose, but if you continue to unscrew them, you can actually you can leave them in at that stage, or if you prefer, like I do, you can just pop that out and put that to one side so you know that it's safe. You probably won't be able to do that with the ones that are tucked away in the holes, but you can certainly do that to the ones that you have the easy access for. So we know that we can do it with that one, with that one. We might be able to do it with that one, but the 2 in the centre there we probably won't be able to do. So we'll just kind of unscrew that so it disengages from the bottom section. So next we want to lift the rear of the manifold up, and then we're going to slide it backwards to allow us to disengage these studs at the front right here. So that's the unit right there, so set that safely to one side. We've got a little foam section right here at the front, just carefully lift that off. Now, obviously these chambers are now open. This is where the air goes into each of the chambers via the intake manifold. So it's a good idea to grab yourself some tissue paper or some blue paper and just fill these up, because what you don't want to be doing is dropping any dirt or bits of rubbish down in there whilst you're working on it. See, we've got various bits and bobs. So I'm going to put a little bit of paper in each of these just to ensure that they stay clean and tidy. So as we can see, we now have all the access that we need to be able to change our 6 spark plugs. We can see our Coil Packs sat on top of our spark plugs right there, and we've put some paper in there just to stop any dirt or debris getting down inside the chambers there. Now, one thing before you pull these out, as you can see on using this as an example, we've got some kind of old sand and stuff, it looks like, in this engine bay. So what I don't want to do is pull these out and for a load of sand to fall down into that hole. Then I take my spark plug out and a load of sand falls into the engine. That's the last thing that you want. So this is a good opportunity before we pull the coil packs. If you've got quite a lot of dirt on yours, similar to what we have here, is just to give this a clean down. And remember, when you're cleaning it down, try and clean it in the direction away from your central air intake, so you don't want to be flicking all this sand up onto this area. So if yours is dirty, now's the time, give it a good clean. Another thing you can do with it, if you have an air compressor, is give it a blast with your air. This is quite good for cleaning out the debris. If you're going to do that, just pop a piece of cardboard or something similar over the top of your of the intakes there, because you don't want again any of that dirt going down inside there. So next up, we've got the electrical connectors on the ends, so we can go ahead and disconnect all 6 of those. There's this little tab that you press down in the centre there, and then you should be able to pull the whole plug off. So next, each of these coil packs has got a size 10 little screw on the bottom of it. So you can go ahead and get all 6 of these removed as well. So next we're going to remove the coil packs. It's always good practice to put them back in the same order that you removed them. So when you take these out and lay them out on the floor, if you lay them out so that they kind of match the pattern that you removed them, so when you come to put them back in, you know which one went where. So to remove the coil pack, just grab the whole thing by the body, just give it a bit of a wiggle, and that's your coil pack removed right there. It's a good idea as you take the coil packs out, just to check the ends of them, make sure there's no kind of nasty corrosion or anything unusual in there. And also at this stage it's a good idea to inspect the chambers, make sure they look nice and clean down in there, and that, again, that there's nothing untoward. Now another little tip for you when removing spark plugs, and they do actually mention this in the Dodge Workshop manual as well, which is fantastic, is that it's always a good idea, if you can, to put a blast of compressed air down into the chamber that the spark plug sits in here, the little tube. The reason being is if there's any kind of dirt particles or anything that have fallen down into the bottom, what you don't want to do is remove that spark plug and have those bits of dirt fall into the engine. So the theory is you give it a quick blast with air, and any rubbish hopefully will come flying out. If you don't have your own compressor, you can use something, this is just a computer air duster that you'd use for a keyboard, and you can, whoops, well, it's not as good, but you can use that if you need to. So next you want to grab a proper spark plug socket. These are 5/8 or 16 millimeters. Spark plug socket's obviously different to a normal socket. It has that little rubber section in it which sits around the spark plug and grips onto it and allows you to remove it, whereas a normal socket obviously does not have that spark plug insert and so won't grip that spark plug or help you draw it out. So grab your proper spark plug socket and we'll get to work. So just gently push it down and then start to twist it. And then you should feel the socket slip over the actual nut section, the bottom section of it, and it become tight. I've got that one there. Make sure it's pushed down nice and firm, and then we can start to remove this spark plug. So there we can see that's the old spark plug removed. It's always a good idea to inspect your old spark plugs. I'm checking for kind of how much carbon they have built up. Although it's obviously it's aged, it's not terrible. Obviously compare that to a brand new. It's NGK plugs that we're refitting with today. Is that what originally came out? Champion plugs have come out. NGK are going back in. Now your spark plugs may come pre-gapped, but it's always a good idea to use one of these tools to double check it, make sure that you're 100% happy. On the Grand Caravan that we're working on today, it should be set at 0.044 inches. If you're unsure on how to gap a spark plug using one of these tools, you can pick these up for literally $2 or $3, including shipping, eBay or Amazon. We actually produced a video on that, so you can scroll down and check that video out if you're unsure on how to use these. It's always a good idea just to double check that they are to factory spec, which is 0.044. So another thing to mention very quickly with regards to spark plugs, some people like to apply some anti-seize to the threads, and if that's a practice that you like to do, there's no harm in that, you go ahead. The argument for it is the anti-seize, if you ever get any corrosion or anything in there, that will help stop it kind of locking in place, make it easier to remove, that kind of thing. However, companies such as NGK, whose plugs we're fitting today, they recommend absolutely not to apply the copper anti-seize. The reason being is it will throw off your torque specifications because you're lubricating the threads, and so in theory you can tighten them a little bit tighter then they should go, which could damage the spark plug or of course the thread in the head there. So you do want to be a little bit careful if you're doing that, but again, it's purely down to personal preference. It's not something I do. I like to put them in like this, and also because this has got a nice bright silver coating on it, you can tell these have been set to not need any of the anti-seize. The ones that do sometimes need anti-seize tend to be black, almost like oxidized black finish. But when they're nice and shiny like this, you don't normally need it, but 100% personal preference. Now, it's a good idea to replace these plugs one at a time rather than take all 6 out and put all 6 back in. The reason being is you're leaving the hole into the engine there open for the shortest amount of time possible, thus reducing the likelihood of any dust or particles or grit or dirt getting down into that hole. So what you want to do with your spark plug socket again, just pop the head into the socket there, twist it so that it sits in nicely, and we're ready to insert. And you should always insert your spark plug by hand. You should not put your wrench on it at this stage, because you don't want to put any undue pressure on there in case you cross thread. You do not want to be cross threading down at the bottom of that hole. That could turn out to be an absolute nightmare. So you just do it nice and gently by hand. Make sure that the thread takes correctly. So next you've got to grab your torque wrench, and you want to torque these up to factory specification, which on the Dodge Grand Caravan we're working on today is 18 Newton meters, which is 13 foot-pounds. And then once it's torqued up, we need to recover it. If you pull it straight off, often the bit will just come off of the end. What you want to do, you don't want to start twisting it if you can help it, because obviously you may end up tightening or loosening it, even by hand. But if you press kind of down or up straight and give it a bit of a wobble, yeah, there it comes. So you kind of, what you're trying to do is put that in there and jam it in that way and pull it straight out. That will help you release the rubber cuff. So now you've done the process on the one spark plug, obviously just go through and repeat the process for the remaining 5. Being sure to double check the gap on the new spark plugs that you're fitting each time. So ready to start refitting your coil packs. Remember to try and put them in the same order that you removed them, ideally. And go ahead and put the bolts back in, and obviously do that on all 6. When you come to tighten these up, just don't over tighten them, just be sensible with them. There's no need to do it to a specified torque, just nice and firm, but don't over tighten them. So next stage, I'm going to refit the electrical connectors. Let's just go around and obviously do the 3 on the front and then repeat on the rear. So next we're going to start refitting everything back into place. So we're going to start by removing the blue paper, and then we'll put the intake manifold back, and then start to reconnect the various components. So just refit your foam insert. There's 2 holes in it, and there's 2 little crosses, one here, one here. So we've removed all of the bolts, apart from the remaining 2. One there, one there. Little tip for you to get these out of the way so you don't have to kind of worry about lining them up. If you push it with the tip of your finger and then start to undo it, you should, there you go, get it to a point where it just starts to undo into the body of this section, and then that will stay there out of the way. And again, just do the same with that one. Push it with the tip of your finger. Yeah, and then they're solid then. And then you haven't got to worry about trying to line those up with the holes when we pop this back into place. So what we want to do is remember to get these 2 little threaded bolts into the 2 little holes at the front, and then lay it down gently, and they should hopefully align up correctly. a bit of a wobble, you can kind of feel it fall into place, and obviously everything will line up correctly on the corners. So that's back in situ. So you can see on the plastic on the intake manifold, it says for the bolts 7 to 9 Newton meters. That'll be off the scale for most people's torque wrenches. So just nice and firm without over tightening. So just go around and get them started. I'm not going to do them up completely just yet because there is a sequence for tightening these. It's like with anything on cars. When it comes to something that's got a seal, any kind of gasket, you don't want to tighten them kind of in a circle, as it were. There will be a certain pattern to try and draw that on nice and evenly. But what we've got to do first of all is just get these screws back into place, ready to be tightened up. So what you want to do is just tighten each of these up so that the head just touches the plastic. You don't want to actually be tightening them up. As soon as it touches, just stop there, don't put any pressure on it. So there's an order for the tightening of these. If we imagine that we're going to number these 1 to 7, so we'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. The first one we want to tighten up is number 7, right down in here. So remember, we're not going to over tighten this. It's only 7 to 9 Newton meters. Plenty. And the next one to tighten is number 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then 3. 1, 2, 3 at the back here. And there's number 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then number 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at the back there, just in front of the throttle body. And then lastly is number 2, and then number 1. So next we're going to do the 2 little nuts just down here. So there's obviously one here and one just over here on the other side. Again, no real torque specs on those, so just do them up so that they're nice and snug. And then we'll pop the upper radiator hose back into the clip. So next let's put the rear bracket back on. So you want to feed that through like so, and whilst we're there we'll just loosely pop a nut on the end of each one of those just to stop it popping off when we're working down the side of it. So grab the threaded rod again, and obviously the nut side goes on the outside to the washers on the inside, size 13. We've got a little plastic bracket there, it actually sits on the end of the threaded rod we just did in, so you just push that on the end. So now we can tighten up the 2 nuts on the rear here. Again, don't over tighten them. Next we've got the brake booster line. Put it back on, work it all the way down, make sure it's seated all the way down to the base. Perfect. Next up, attached to the harness, we have this breather hose. So feed that back through, and then we can reconnect this electrical connection just here. Remember to push the centre back in just to lock it into place. Next up, the electrical connection for the throttle body. Slide that in, and again slide the little centre pin forward to lock that into place. Little clip just there, and a second clip just there. Work it all the way down, make sure it's seated. So next up we want to wrestle this back into place. Note you've got the the rubber gasket on the one side, so you might just want to give that a quick once over, make sure that's nice and clean and there's no damage, and that's all looking good before you refit it. And these are the two lugs that we mentioned earlier when we were removing it, and they actually fit way down past the coil packs. You can just see just in there, and there's another one just over there as well, and they actually pop onto those. You want to ensure that this hole's lined up. Feed that down the centre, pop the pin back in, job done. And also here we'll reconnect the electrical connector for the MAF. So time to refit our airbox lid. Make sure it's seated all the way around and feel around the bottom, make sure it's seated nicely down there as well. Just before I do the hose up, yeah, we can see the air filter's not actually in properly. It's there, it just popped out slightly. You want to make sure that it's in all the way around, so when this lid goes down you don't want to trap any of your air filter between the two plastic parts of the box. Once you're happy with that, remember you've got the tabs on the rear, you can see the 3 tabs there. They need to fit in first. Again, just make sure you're not going to get caught, and just bring that down. I'll just pop one of these on. Quick visual inspection around the sides, make sure that your air filter is definitely not pinched anywhere, and if you're happy, go ahead and put the other 2 on as well. Just double check that you're happy that it's seated fully, and then you can go ahead and tighten it back up. Again, you want to get it nice and snug, not over firm, it's just enough to ensure a good seal and to stop it moving. Next is the air hose. There, and when it comes down onto the side of the engine, just down here where you popped it off from earlier. And again, and finally your engine cover. And that is your spark plugs changed. So hopefully that's been useful for some of you. Hopefully you've enjoyed watching this video, and this has got the job done for you. If this has been helpful, we'd really appreciate it if you give this video a like on YouTube, and also please support us by hitting that subscribe button. We have more great content coming for these cars soon, so we hope to see you again in the very near future. Thanks guys, see you again.